Hey everyone, welcome back to Storyova, the place where real stories meet raw emotions. If you enjoy powerful, dramatic, and thought-provoking life stories, make sure you stick around, because today's story is one you won't forget. Today's story is about love, betrayal, boundaries, and what happens when a parent is pushed too far. It all started with a sentence no parent ever expects to hear. My daughter said I couldn't sit at her wedding. So I took back everything I paid for. I never thought my life would turn into something that sounds like a headline. I'm not the kind of person who thrives on drama. I worked hard my entire life, built everything from scratch, and raised my daughter the best way I knew how. Her name is Emily. She was my whole world. I raised her mostly on my own, after her father left when she was just 5 years old. I remember the nights I stayed up helping her with homework after working double shifts. I remember skipping meals so she could have the things she wanted. Dance classes, school trips, birthdays that I made sure were always special. I wasn't perfect. No parent is. But I was there, always. So when Emily got engaged, I was over the moon. Her fiancé Daniel seemed like a good man. Polite, well-spoken, came from a well-off family. His parents were different from us. Wealthy, very particular, and very concerned about appearances. But I told myself that didn't matter. What mattered was that Emily was happy. When she told me about the wedding, I didn't hesitate. I'll take care of it, I said, and I meant it. I paid for the venue, a beautiful countryside estate. I covered the catering, the decorations, the photographer, even the dress. It wasn't cheap. In fact, it wiped out a large portion of my savings. But I didn't care. This was my daughter's big day, or at least, I thought it was. At first, everything seemed fine. Emily would call me, excited about flowers, colors, guest lists. We laughed, planned, bonded. But slowly, something started to change. Her tone became colder, shorter. Conversations felt transactional. Did you pay the deposit? Did you confirm the florist? Did you send the money? There were fewer I love yous and more instructions. I brushed it off. Weddings are stressful, I told myself. Then came the first real sign something was wrong. We were at a dress fitting. Emily looked stunning. Truly, I couldn't stop smiling, but her future mother, Patricia, kept making comments. Oh, that fabric might look better on a slimmer figure. Are you sure about that neckline? It's a bit bold. I saw Emily shrink with every comment, so I spoke up. She looks beautiful, I said firmly. Patricia gave me a tight smile. Well, of course you would think that. That was the moment I realized something. I wasn't part of their world, and they didn't want me to be. After that day, things escalated. Decisions started being made without me. The venue layout changed. The menu altered. The guest list suddenly filled with people I had never heard of, business associates of Daniel's family. When I asked Emily about it, she seemed defensive. It's not just your wedding, Mom. That stung. Not just mine. I wasn't asking for control. I just wanted to be included. Still, I let it go. Until the day that changed everything. Emily came over to my house one evening. She looked tense, nervous. Mom, we need to talk. I knew right away something was wrong. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I had helped her with school projects. Where we celebrated birthdays. Where we shared so many memories. She couldn't look me in the eye. Daniel's parents. They have certain expectations for the wedding. I stayed quiet. They think it would be better if seating was arranged in a certain way. Okay, I said slowly. What does that mean? She hesitated, and then she said it. They don't think it's appropriate for you to sit in the front row. I blinked. I'm sorry. What? They want Daniel's family in the front. It's just appearances. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm your mother, I said. Where exactly am I supposed to sit? She swallowed. Maybe somewhere in the middle rows. That was the moment something inside me cracked. All those years, All those sacrifices, all the love, reduced to a middle row seat. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't recognize my own daughter. Do you agree with this? I asked. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I stood up. I paid for this wedding. Emily, I know, Mom, but no, I cut her off. You don't get to treat me like this and expect me to smile through it. She rolled her eyes. It's just a seat. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Just a seat. That's what she thought this was about. But it wasn't about the seat. It was about respect. It was about being erased from my own daughter's life to make room for people who valued appearances over love. I took a deep breath. If I'm not important enough to sit in the front row at my own daughter's wedding, then I'm not important enough to pay for it either. Her head snapped up. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, I'm withdrawing my financial support. The silence that followed was deafening. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, Mom. Everything is already booked. Then I suggest Daniel's family covers it. Her face turned red. This is unbelievable. You're being selfish. Selfish. That word hit me like a slap. I gave you everything, I said quietly. And this is how you repay me. You're ruining my wedding. No, Emily, I said. You did that when you decided I didn't matter. She stormed out of the house that night. And just like that, everything changed. The next few days were chaos. Vendors started calling me. Hi, we heard there's been a change in payment. I calmly informed each one that I was no longer responsible. Some contracts were in my name. Others required deposits that hadn't been fully paid. Without my financial backing, the wedding started to unravel. The venue demanded immediate payment. The caterer refused to proceed without full confirmation. The photographer canceled within a week. The dream wedding was falling apart. Emily called me nonstop. At first, angry. How could you do this to me? Then desperate. Mom, please. We can fix this. But I had made my decision. This wasn't about revenge. This was about boundaries. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. A week later, Daniel called me. Not to apologize, to negotiate. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said. There hasn't, I replied. We can arrange better seating for you. I almost laughed. Now they wanted to arrange it after everything. No, I said. This isn't about where I sit. It's about how I'm treated. There was a pause. Well, if you don't contribute, the wedding might have to be scaled down. That sounds like a decision you'll have to make. He hung up. I won't lie, those days were hard. I cried. A lot, not because I regretted my decision, but because I was grieving the relationship I thought I had with my daughter, grieving the little girl who used to run into my arms, grieving the idea that love would always be enough. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. I didn't hear from Emily. Until one day, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there she was. No makeup, no perfect hair, just my daughter. She looked exhausted. Can I come in? I stepped aside. We sat in silence for a while, and then she broke down. I messed up, Mom. Those words, they meant everything. I let them get into my head, she said through tears. I was so focused on having this perfect wedding, I forgot what actually mattered. I didn't say anything. I hurt you, she continued. And I'm so sorry. I looked at her. And for the first time in weeks, I saw my daughter again. Not the person she had been trying to become, but the person she truly was. I don't care about the wedding anymore, she said. I just want you there. As my mom, I took a deep breath. Do you mean that? She nodded. I do. Silence filled the room again, but this time, it felt different, softer. I can't just pretend none of this happened, I said. I know, she replied. I'm not asking you to. I need respect, Emily. Not just today, always. You have it, she said immediately. I promise. I studied her face, looking for any sign of hesitation. There was none, just sincerity and love, the kind I thought I had lost. I nodded slowly. Okay. She burst into tears again. But this time, they were different. Relief, hope, healing. The wedding didn't look like what it was originally planned to be. It was smaller, simpler. Daniel's parents weren't thrilled, but for the first time, Emily stood her ground. I want my mom in the front row, she said. End of discussion. And just like that, everything shifted. On the day of the wedding, I sat exactly where I belonged, right in the front. Not because I paid for it, but because I was her mother, and that meant something again. As she walked down the aisle, our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew we had both learned something. Love isn't about money. It isn't about appearances. It's about respect. Boundaries. And knowing your worth. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're being treated as less than you deserve, remember this: you don't have to accept it, even from the people you love most. Because sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that teach the most important lessons. And sometimes, standing up for yourself is the only way to save what truly matters. After the wedding, things didn't magically become perfect. That's something people don't talk about enough. They think apologies fix everything overnight. That one emotional moment erases weeks, months, sometimes years of hurt. But real life doesn't work like that. Healing takes time. Trust takes time, and rebuilding a relationship, especially one that's been shaken like ours, effort from both sides. The first few weeks after the wedding were cautious. Emily called me more often. Not about bills. Not about plans. Just to talk. At first, it felt unfamiliar. Hey Mom, what are you doing? Such a simple question. But after everything we'd been through, it meant more than she probably realized. Just having tea, I'd say, "Can I come over?" And slowly, we started again. Not from the beginning, but from somewhere new. One afternoon, she came over and sat at the kitchen table, again the same table where everything had fallen apart. "I've been thinking a lot," she said. I stayed quiet, letting her speak about how I let things get so out of control. She looked around the house. "You gave me everything, Mom," and I acted like it didn't matter. "It did matter," I said gently. "You just forgot for a while." She nodded. I think I was trying so hard to fit into Daniel's world that I started pushing away my own. That made sense. I had seen it happening, piece by piece. But hearing her admit it was different. "Do you feel like you still have to do that?" I asked. She hesitated. "Sometimes," she admitted. "His family, they have expectations. There's this constant pressure to look perfect, act perfect. And is that what you want?" I asked. She looked at me. No. That was the first honest answer that mattered. Because this wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about her life. "You need to decide who you are in that marriage, Emily," I said. "Not who they want you to be." She took a deep breath. "I'm trying." And I could see that she was. But change doesn't happen in a straight line. A month later, I was invited to dinner at their house. Daniel's house. Technically, their house now. I won't lie. Was nervous. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew exactly who would be there. Patricia, the woman who made me feel like I didn't belong from the very beginning. When I arrived, everything looked pristine. Perfect lighting. Perfect table setting. Perfect smiles. But I had learned something by then. Perfection doesn't mean peace. Emily greeted me at the door and hugged me tightly. "I'm glad you came," she whispered. "Me too," I said. Dinner started off polite. Too polite. Small talk. Safe topics. Until Patricia spoke. "I must say," she began, sipping her wine, "the wedding turned out differently than expected." There it was. I set my glass down. "Yes," I said calmly. "It did." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Such a shame, really." It could have been quite the event. Emily shifted uncomfortably. Daniel stayed quiet, and I realized something in that moment. Nothing had changed for Patricia, but something had changed for me. I think it was exactly what it needed to be. I said. She raised an eyebrow. Yes, I continued. A wedding isn't about impressing people. It's about celebrating love with the people who actually matter. The table went silent. Patricia tilted her head slightly. Well, we all have different perspectives, I suppose. Yes, I said. We do. Emily reached for my hand under the table. A small gesture, but a powerful one. After dinner, as I was getting ready to leave, Daniel pulled me aside. I want to apologize, he said. I looked at him. For what? I asked. For how everything happened before the wedding, he said. I should have handled things differently. That surprised me. Why didn't you? I asked honestly. He sighed. I was trying to keep everyone happy. And how did that work out? I asked. He gave a small, almost embarrassed smile. Not very well. I nodded. That's the problem with trying to please everyone, I said. You usually end up hurting the people who actually matter. He looked down for a moment. I'm learning that. And maybe he was. Over the next few months, I saw small changes. Emily became more confident. She spoke up more, not just with me but with Daniel, too. And surprisingly, Daniel started to support her. Not always perfectly, not always immediately, but more than before. One evening, Emily called me, her voice a mix of frustration and determination. You won't believe what happened, she said. What? I asked. His mom tried to plan our anniversary party. I blinked. She what? She picked the venue, the guest list, everything, without even asking us. I couldn't help it. Ty laughed. And what did you do? There was a pause. Then she said something that made me smile. I said no. Just like that, no hesitation, no apology, just no. And I asked. She wasn't happy, Emily admitted. But I didn't back down. How did that feel? I asked. Another pause. Terrifying, she said. But also kind of amazing. That was the moment I knew. She was changing. Not because of me, not because of the wedding, but because she had finally realized her own worth. Months passed. Our relationship grew stronger, not because we avoided conflict, but because we handled it differently. We talked more honestly, we listened more carefully, and most importantly, we respected each other. One afternoon, Emily came over with a photo album. What's this? I asked. Our wedding pictures, she said. We sat together on the couch and flipped through them. There were no extravagant decorations, no over-the-top displays, just real moments. Laughter, tears, love. And then we got to a picture that made us both pause. It was of me, sitting in the front row, looking up at her as she stood at the altar. You look proud, she said softly. I replied. She closed the album gently. I almost took that away from you, she said. Yes, I said honestly. You did. She nodded. I'm really glad you didn't let me. That, right there, was the truth of it all. Sometimes love means saying yes, but sometimes it means saying no. No to disrespect, no to being overlooked, no to being treated like you don't matter. Because if I had stayed quiet, if I had accepted that middle row seat, we might not be sitting there together now. We might have lost each other completely. And that's the part people don't always understand. Standing up for yourself isn't about pushing people away. It's about showing them where the line is and giving them the chance to meet you there. Or lose you. A year later, Emily and Daniel invited me over for dinner again, but this time, it felt different, relaxed, comfortable, real. No pressure, no performances, just family. One point, Emily looked at me and smiled. You know, I tell people about what happened, she said. I raised an eyebrow. You do? Yeah, she laughed. Not the dramatic version. But the truth. And what do you say? I asked. She thought for a moment. I say my mom taught me the most important lesson of my life. Right before my wedding, I leaned back slightly. And what lesson is that? She smiled. That love without respect doesn't work. No matter who it's from. I didn't say anything, because I didn't need to. She had learned it, really learned it, and maybe that was worth everything we went through. So if you're listening to this right now, and you feel like you're being pushed aside, ignored, disrespected, even by someone you love, remember this: you are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to expect respect. And sometimes, the people who truly love you will rise to meet those expectations. And sometimes, they won't. But either way, you'll know your worth, and that changes everything. Thank you for being here with. If this story stayed with you, if it made you reflect on your own relationships, don't forget to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because sometimes, the hardest stories are the ones that teach us the most.
That's all for today's story. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is Storyova, where your story matters. And I'll see you in the next one.